Today, we're going to unravel the incredible, almost unbelievable life story of the tapeworm. Seriously, this thing is a true master of survival, and its journey is nothing short of epic. So let's start with a question you might not want to think about, especially while you're eating. You see, that perfectly cooked steak or pork chop, well, if it's not perfectly cooked, it could be the golden ticket for an unwanted guest to start its grand journey right inside of you. So let's meet the main characters in our story today. On one side, we have the beef tapeworm, Taenia saginata, and on the other, the pork tapeworm, Taenia solium. Now, they might pick different animal partners to get the job done, but their ultimate goal, it's exactly the same. Find a nice, cozy home where they can grow up, reproduce, and keep their species going. To really get the story, we need to know two key terms. First up is the definitive host. This is the organism where the parasite hits the big time. It becomes an adult and gets to reproduce. And in the tapeworm saga, guess who plays that starring role? Yep, it's us humans. And then we've got the intermediate host. Think of this as the organism that gives the parasite a place to stay during its awkward teenage phase, the larval stage. For our tapeworms, this role is played by either cattle or pigs, and you absolutely need both of these hosts for the life cycle to work. Okay, so the stage is set. Let's start the story right at that first critical moment, the moment of infection, when this parasite finally makes its way into its definitive host, the human.
It all kicks off with that one bite. When a person eats undercooked meat that has these tiny tapeworm larvae in it, something pretty amazing happens. These things are tough. They can survive the super acidic environment of your stomach, make their way to the intestine, and then, bam, they use their specialized head to latch right onto the intestinal wall. Once they're anchored, they can finally begin their big transformation.
And get this doesn't take very long at all. In just 10 to 14 weeks, that tiny little larva can grow into a full-blown adult worm. And these things can get to be several meters long. It's this incredibly efficient growth spurt, all happening completely behind the scenes. All right, so now it's an adult. What's its prime directive? Just one thing: reproduce. This next phase of its life is all about making sure the next generation gets a chance to start its own journey. And what's really wild is how self-sufficient this parasite is. A single tapeworm doesn't need to find a partner. Nope, it has both male and female reproductive parts, which means it can fertilize itself. It's basically a one-worm egg-producing powerhouse. So you're probably wondering, how do all these thousands of eggs actually get out? Well, the worm's body is made up of these sections, or segments, and you can think of every single segment as its own little egg-making factory. As these segments mature and get packed full of eggs, they just break off the end of the worm and get passed out of the human body with the feces. Just like that, they're out in the environment, ready for the next step. So the eggs have escaped, but now they're in a race against time. To have any chance of surviving, they have to find their way into an intermediate host. This is where Act 2 begins. An unsuspecting cow or pig is grazing in a field that's been contaminated, and it accidentally ingests the eggs. Once inside the animal, the eggs hatch. These new tiny larvae then burrow right through the animal's intestinal wall, hop into the bloodstream, and basically hitch a ride to the animal's muscles. Once they've reached their destination in the muscle tissue, the larvae go through another change. They build a tough, protective shell around themselves. This is called a cyst, and they enter a dormant stage. But don't let that fool you. They are now highly infective, just patiently waiting for the cycle to come full circle. In this whole process inside the intermediate host, from the moment the egg is eaten to the point where an infective cyst is formed in the muscle, takes about 7 to 10 weeks. The parasite is now perfectly packaged, all set for the next definitive host that happens to come along. Okay, so we follow this incredible journey from a human to an animal and all the way back again. Let's pull everything together and talk about why understanding this whole complex cycle is so important. And here it is, the entire life cycle in a nutshell. A larva in meat is eaten by a human. It grows into an adult in about 10 to 14 weeks and starts releasing eggs. Those eggs get out into the environment, get eaten by an animal, hatch, and then form cysts in the muscle over the next 7 to 10 weeks, just waiting to be eaten again. It is a remarkably effective two-host strategy. So here's the most important takeaway. As elegant as this cycle is, it's also pretty fragile. It can be broken. If you cook meat to a safe temperature, you kill the larvae.
If you have good sanitation, you prevent animal feed from getting contaminated in the first place. And if there are thorough meat inspections, infected meat can be identified before it ever gets to your plate. Each one of these steps is a massive roadblock in the tapeworm's journey.
And that leads us to one last thought. This parasite's entire survival plan hinges on its ability to make that jump between two completely different species. So after seeing its entire incredible journey, where do you think its weakest link really is?